Hey everybody, it's Sunday evening on February 5th, 2023 at approximately 5:44 p.m. my time. That's what time it is on the dot. Right before 60 minutes in my time zone. And yeah, I just thought I'd give you a quick what the fuck file, a quick truth bomb. I had a pretty good weekend with a colleague, a friend, a guy who flew out to visit me from the Bay Area, a guy by the name of Doug Boggs, who um, wrote a fantastic book. You know, that I think should be required reading for anybody who goes through the foreclosure process to understand just the simple mechanics. And it's called Quantum of Justice. But, you know, Doug is a very knowledgeable guy, very aware guy, a guy that has done more than most people I've experienced that led him down this path. He was a developer, had projects all over the United States and California and Texas and Florida, and he was moving and shaking, making shit happen, and that wasn't his, sort of core being. The guy, was a recording studio dude. He's a singer, has been in the Bay Area music scene for the last 40 years, and he just, like a lot of artists, wound up doing other things, and in the ramp up to the 2008 great financial crisis, and I've met many of these types of people. They can build things, they can develop things, they can make things happen, and they're just smart people, and Doug was one of them on a very, very high level. And when shit hit the fan and he lost all of his developments and eventually his home, he became a pro se litigant and answered all the questions that didn't make sense to him, similar to what I had to do with the con. But ultimately, he did that to this book, Quantum of Justice, which reveals some of the most amazing array of revelations that exist in this space. And he gets phone calls all the time from people that are like, well, hey, Doug, you're an expert in all of this stuff. What do I do? And he's like, what do you mean, what do I do? Read my fucking book and you figure out what to do. I mean, it's like, it's like for me in the con, there's so many people in our world that are up to their eyeballs and trying to like stop illegal foreclosures that they're in the midst of. And they get bits and pieces of things in 21, 22, 23 that kind of give them a sense of the big picture, but they have no idea what the fucking con is. And so one of the things that Doug wanted to do with me this weekend was, all right, let's refigure, let's refocus, let's reconfigure kind of where our mindsets are so that, we can be effective moving forward because there's just so much information that's important. And I was welcoming of that in a very monumental way, and more ways than I can even possibly convey my gratitude for his involvement. But, I asked him to sit with me and watch the latest Bernie Madoff series on Netflix called The Monster of Wall Street. And that was directed by Joe Beringer, who's a very, very well-known director, works with Radical Media. He did a documentary series on Metallica, for one. He's done all of the mass murderers on Netflix, like John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy, and of course, the worst of them all out of Wisconsin, whose name will come to me in a minute. I try to put his name and face out of my head because it's such a horrific piece of American history. It just makes me disgusted thinking about it. But, this guy props up Bernie as a financial serial killer. And I thought that was apt, he was. And I wanted to see Doug's response to this long form documentary, knowing what he knows about the con, and of course why he came and he wanted to talk to reconfigure, and he knows that I'm involved with finally a huge platform that can do investigative deep dives on a global level that unfortunately the New York Times has completely walked away from. They used to be that paper, and same with the Washington Post, neither are now. And there's only one entity that is, and that's who I'm involved with to tell the broader story. But we were, bringing a lot of information forward, what to share, how to convey this information, and so forth. But, when we were down, and chilling out, we were watching this Madoff story, and I just wanted to see his reaction in real time as he went through it, knowing what he knows and knowing what he knows about the con and knowing what he knows just about the story writ large. And it was just amazing to watch his experience, his expression, and his response in real time, because he's like, you got to be fucking kidding me. He's like, this whole thing's a whitewash. It's a distraction. We both recognize the filmmaking of Joe Beringer and the team that put together the Bernie Madoff story for what it is. It's literal perfection. But it also has all the ingredients that we put in the con, even though it doesn't identify them. Doesn't really give you the methodology of why these things happen. They just present them, and I'll give you a couple of examples. We call, the first dynamic is Gresham's dynamic, which is bad ethics driving good ethics out of the marketplace. And you do that through control fraud and incentives. And you do that through a CEO that's corrupt, that's looking through modern executive compensation to pad the numbers to be able to get everybody to lie, steal, and cheat for his behalf so that they can get bigger bonuses. All of that was what Bernie Madoff was doing in his own right, even though it was a Ponzi scheme, a literal Ponzi scheme. But the filmmakers also say that, they do this thing and it's a dance, and it's an amazing dance. It may as well be CIA, orchestrated, engineered with the top, psychology experts in the world, and it's a smoke and mirrors song and dance. Now, whether or not the filmmakers were aware of that or they were participating in it, I don't know if I'll ever know. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll actually know sooner than later. There's a lot of things going on along those lines, but I would recommend you watch Bernie Madoff's Monster of Wall Street and then watch The Con and see if you can decipher it. Look, Bernie Madoff was big. At his highest level, it was $180 billion. There's a lot that I learned about the Bernie Madoff story that I didn't know before. More importantly, the vectors of what we call, kind of a laundering out of dark, enterprises out of Europe, for example, and other, locations around the world where, bad actors and drug dealers and drug lords and, people that might be involved with all manner of underworld type of economies can launder their money into our financial system. And that's part of the FinCEN files. And this group that I'm working with wrote the book on how this whole thing fucking works. And, most of us don't understand that our financial system has become a laundromat for international bad actors, most notably Russia. And of course, that dovetails directly into Trump. And, just as a comment, it's amazing to me how many people have gone through this foreclosure madness and they wind up being Trump supporters. Trump was victimizing people like that the whole fucking time. And these morons literally will go to Trump because of why? Because they're fucking stupid. maybe more so, less so, about the same as people who put all their faith in Obama. Nobody understands the level of fucking criminal engagement and fraudulent activity that I've revealed, that we've revealed in The Con. But you got to watch, quite frankly, if you want an easy fix, so you don't have to read 1,000 books and do research and understand every, shape or form of the story. You can just simply watch Bernie Madoff and understand a couple of corollaries. For example, Bernie Madoff's 17th floor was exactly what we call the fix-it shop that happened at every major pretender lender and huge, mortgage brokers that existed in a specific time frame that include big names like Countrywide and AmeriQuest and NationStar and many others, where their fix-it shops would literally just do documentation fraud to get people approved on what we call liar's loans. That's what they show in Bernie Madoff. It's a big deal. It's shocking, quite frankly. It's just a doc fraud shop where they just changed bank statements to prove to everybody or to show everybody what they wanted to see, earnings, but it was fraud, documentation fraud. They just made up shit. And they made it up, and the SEC bought it. In the Madoff story, the SEC bought it, hook, line, and sinker, not once, twice, 3, 4 times, like 8 times in a row, 8 years in a row. A guy by the name of Mark Markopoulos was laying up on a silver platter, in his words, what the Ponzi scheme fraud was, starting in 2000, because he knew it was all bullshit. And if you watch the series, you'll understand how he knew it was all bullshit, but he knew it was bullshit. And so he goes to the Securities and Exchange Commission. What is the Securities and Exchange Commission? They're the cops on the beat to regulate Wall Street. But they don't. And they don't for a specific reason. And they haven't for a long time. And we created the goddamn SEC after the Great Depression because of fucking fraud that blew up the goddamn world. So we learned our lessons, and then based on policy that took place in the late 90s, we just basically defanged the Securities and Exchange Commission and created a revolving door where guys go into the SEC and they basically cover for bad actors like Bernie Madoff, and they come out and they get a job on the other side. It's a fucking shell game. It's a facade. It's fucking absolute insanity. So is our police stations, I guess, to a certain extent. I mean, there's good cops, there's bad cops, there's all sorts of fucked up shit. But, as you're watching this, if you happen to watch Bernie Madoff's thing, you'll come to discover, my God, it's just so fucking stupid. The whole thing's stupid. It was so easy to stop. The SEC had it on a silver platter. All they had to do was look, and they would have been able to see it in a nanosecond and stop it. And because they didn't, Bernie Madoff's fraud morphed from about 20 billion in 2000 to 180 billion in 2007-8. But it wasn't the SEC that took out Bernie. It was the 2008 Great Financial Crisis. And the filmmakers, either not knowing or did know and chose to do it this way, they put a lot of information on Bernie. They show you a lot of what happened in 2008. I mean, they say it. They say the right stuff, but they don't do the deep dive on what actually happened and, how astronomically huge it was. They said that Bernie Madoff scam was the largest Ponzi scheme in history. Well, first of all, you got to understand what a Ponzi scheme is to understand how you rob from Peter to pay Paul. But the 2008 Great Financial Crisis was robbing from Peter to pay Paul and a whole bunch of fucking deceptive acts and practices and fraud on a monumental level. The derivatives that were all predicated on all of these liar's loans that we show you in the con morphed into a $600 trillion to $800 trillion Armageddon by 2006 and 7, which blew up the world. And all of the CEOs on Wall Street were basically playing the same game Bernie Madoff was on a much, much bigger, monumentally bigger level. And that's what we showed you. And I sit here all the time and I think to myself, how fucking stupid is our country? How fucking stupid are people who don't know this because we've got the information out there? How fucking stupid are gatekeepers that I give them this information and we didn't get on Netflix or HBO? Unless, of course, they were told not to because they don't want to fucking blow up Wall Street because Wall Street funds them. So, okay, look the other way. Meanwhile, 50 million Americans got blitzkrieged, at least more so, in all of the, all the potpourri of, pensions and the investments and so forth that just, were all packed with dynamite of fucking toxic shit that blew up the fucking world. And okay, everybody in the con warned everybody at every level about what was going on, and we reveal it in a way that's monumentally bigger than Madoff. Madoff was fantastic. The con is the biggest story in the history of the last 70 years. It's our system. And so, just constantly trying to penetrate the bubble, trying to get out there in a million ways. I'm working with all the right people to make things happen at a high level. And I keep trying to, generate a, kind of a wildfire, a grassroots effort of people that have gone through this, that wake up to see all the different pieces of the puzzle that can actually understand what's going on. But what I've learned is that all the people that need to understand this the most, all the people that need to be able to get the information and champion it the most, they can't. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. That was in Bernie Madoff. That's the same story. The psychology, the impossible sort of disconnect, the lobotomized zombies that can't understand A plus B equals C. It's fucking ridiculous. We are the dumbest population I can possibly fucking imagine. We're tools in the full circus. I know that's not a great way to get people's, on your side that are going through this, but I don't know. I've had enough. I mean, I just read this press release of Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio. He's looking into, interestingly enough, non-performing loans and re-performing loans and investors that are involved with the GSEs. And we're talking about the big, which were shadow lenders, but now they're non-bank lenders because of what happened after 2008, and some of the biggest. And, they're looking at all of these question marks about performing and non-performing loans, and they don't have a fucking clue of what gets baked in the system with liar's loans and all of the rest. And ultimately liar's fraud closures, quite frankly, because of all of the documentation fabrication and the lies and the deception that went into all of the liar's loans that blew up the fucking world based on liar's collateral, liar's, rating agencies, liars derivatives, liars fucking insurance. The whole thing was a fucking lie. Just like Bernie Madoff, but monumentally bigger. There's 1,000 billion and a trillion. Madoff, 180 billion at the height of it. we were talking 600 to 800 trillion. And it took us 50 fucking trillion dollars in the last 12 years to basically, it was 30 trillion in 2009, another 22 trillion in 2019, however many trillion during, COVID, and to stabilize the system of these grifters that have complete fucking control and are above the law, when it's so fucking easy to understand how they break the fucking law and what the law is, and the fact that the likes of the SEC, the FBI, the DOJ aren't fucking arresting these motherfuckers, just like they didn't arrest fucking Trump yet. But how is Trump still walking around? Your guess is as good as mine. I kind of think that he's got something on somebody, and there's a reason why they didn't take him out. Anyway, I'm looking at my crazy shadow face because I don't have the lights on and it's getting dark, and yeah, all of that and then some. But I can tell you that, again, it's so sad, and it's just revolting and just disgustingly pathetic that this is our reality. That people are so one-dimensional, so caught up in their own space that they can't see the forest through the trees, nor could they come together to fucking create something to push back. A guy like me puts it all together, finds a way to spend millions of dollars to tell the fucking truth to the goddamn world, and nobody fucking echoes it because they're too fucking busy looking at their own fucking navel. And then everybody else, in the seat of power, they look at all these people and they're like, they're all fucking idiots. They're not going to stop us. They can't stop us. They're too stupid. I keep trying to stop them. I go to all the right fucking entities, and I'm making major shit happen. And I'm going to do it with or without people getting it, because that's what I do. And that's what I'm going to do. And I do it because I believe, above all else, liberty and justice for all. And I believe that the truth has got to have value. And I got to believe that this country is not that fucking stupid. So I'm praying that somehow, some way, I get to, and then praying is a stupid thing. I'm intending. I'm marching. I'm finding pathways to be, even though this wasn't positive, because I know that there's a lot of great people out there that aren't stupid. I know there's a lot of great people out there that aren't cowards. I know there's a lot of great people out there that if they knew the facts and they understood it and they were listening and they were like, holy hell, my God, it's been in front of our face the whole time, that I think they'd rally to the moment, and I think we'd fucking create a groundswell of a mass movement to hold this goddamn criminal syndicate to account. They're destroying everything, most notably the law, and we let them get away with it. Should it be up to the American people? Well, we have professionals for a reason, but they failed us. And they were complicit. They were weak. They were cowards. They bought in. They took a paycheck. They didn't ask questions. They accepted it. That's the dark side. And I'm coming at you from the dark side right now. But I'm optimistic. I've got the light. And, I'll finish on that. You know what? I'll do this. The light. The bottom line is we've got all the goddamn answers that could take this goddamn train wreck of corruption down if only millions of you understood what was going on. It's in the fucking con at www.thecon.tv. I don't know how it's going to penetrate. It's in, the new Untouchables. It's free. Whatever. What the fuck?